This is the increase in mainstream Pro phone prices over the last 13 years. In some cases, these prices have doubled from the equivalent model, but we also know that more people are purchasing these high-end phones this year compared to last. So why have phones become so expensive, and why does this seemingly not impact people's decisions to actually buy them? We have to start with the fact that what most of us call a phone these days is pretty far removed from that definition that we ran with 15 to 20 years ago. Sure, those things were still multi-purpose in that you could call, text, take pictures, and even play basic games, but contrast that to the versatile powerhouses we carry around with us today, the difference is stark. And yet we still call them phones because they still connect to cellular towers and do allow you to call and text. But this is a single-digit percentage of what they're actually capable of. And more on that in a second. Today's video is sponsored by Ghost VPN. With over 38 million users worldwide and over 20,000 excellent reviews on Trustpilot, it's one of the best VPNs out there. Keeping your internet browsing private is something that should be pretty important in the age of constant data scraping. Whether you're browsing at home or on public Wi-Fi, bad actors are going to be bad actors. And that's where Ghost VPN comes in. Simply select one of their over 100 locations before you browse to encrypt and reroute all of your traffic through their secure servers. This way, no one will even know about your online activity. Ghost also unlocks geo-restricted games and content from over 40 streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney+, and you can even score better deals online by simply changing your virtual location. And since it works on up to 7 concurrent devices, you can load it up on your phone, tablet, computer, even smart TV device, perfect for sharing with friends and family. With our link in the description, you can get their best deal ever. Just $2.03 a month plus 4 months for free, which is 84% off. There's even a 45-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. Anyway, back to the video. 15 to 20 years ago, if you had a good income, you might have a mobile phone, a laptop, a camera, and a games console. Each of those devices would set you back a pretty penny, but all were decentralized. We hadn't really thought of putting everything into one gadget just yet. Add up the cost of all these individual devices that you would have to buy, and you'll have spent an awful lot of money. Fast forward to 2025, and there's a sizable portion of the global population that don't have a laptop or a camera or a games console. They just have a smartphone, and they pull all of that functionality from a single unit. But we'll talk about the real power of a smartphone in a second, because we have to account for inflation in these things. Though it hasn't scaled one for one with smartphone prices, there is enough of a jump in product pricing with inflation, at least to cut away some of that cost delta. A couple of £100 here brings down the prices to a more palatable level, certainly not amazing. And you know what, it sucks, but things in general just cost a lot more in 2025. Not just smartphones, groceries, blankets, anything like that. And that's where I think people actually go wrong. As a smartphone reviewer, when I see friends or family, I'm almost always using a different phone to when I last saw them, and I'll often get asked, oh, what model is that? And I'll give them a brief synopsis and then include the price. And particularly with older relatives, I'll get, phone shouldn't cost that much, what's it made out of, gold or something? And they're really unhappy with the price of these smartphones. And this loops us back to that first point actually. These individuals that I love dearly do use an iPhone to essentially just call, text, and maybe book a doctor's appointment online. That is the extent of their mobile phone usage, yet it costs them £700. And you can kind of understand, when that's their perspective, why they're moaning. But again, as we know, that's not the whole story. Let's take the iPhone 17 Pro Max as an example. It probably sold really well because it's the iPhone, it will be a popular model, it will be a good example for this. This smartphone has more processing power than many desktop computers, even gaming computers had 20 years ago. And I should know because, well, growing up, we didn't have graphics like you could have on a phone. Not to mention the insane power efficiency of what we have these days. You know, no loud cooling fans, insane amounts of coil whine, and a really hefty electricity bill to go with. Your mum basically screaming at you to turn the thing off. There are games on mobile that look better than what we had on PS3, and PS3 wasn't that long ago really. Or maybe I'm getting very old. You get to play them on a big 120Hz OLED screen that's surely going to be better than most people's TVs in their homes. thanks to not only the great sharpness but the incredible peak brightness, especially in HDR, of a modern smartphone display, and the wonderful colours that you get by, well, using the OLED technology. Most people don't have OLED TVs. Yeah, that's a near 7-inch pristine OLED panel in your pocket, carrying it around casually like it's nothing, not realising that these panels are absolutely wild, and they are expensive to make. Not to mention the fact that most people have unlimited 100% internet access just from their phone in their pocket. High-speed connections, we're talking 50, 100, 500 megabit per second access on your phone. Do you know how fast that is? We wouldn't have even dreamed of that speed in Britain 20 years ago, and yet that's kind of normal today. Even in more recent times, internal storage has grown drastically. 16 gigabytes and a micro SD card slot to 128, 256, and that's at the starting capacities. You can get phones with 2 terabytes of storage now. Software support has also grown from 2 to 3 years, if you're lucky, to 7 years being the standard on these high-end models, particularly from the mainstream brands. They're also IP68 rainproof, and if you're in Britain, that's really useful to have too. They have super secure fingerprint scanners, face unlock systems, they can charge wirelessly for goodness sake. In the case of the iPhone, not only do you have a camera leagues more capable than even a dedicated separate camera from 15 years ago, but you get 4 of them. For some reference, the sensor in this bridge camera is about half the size of the sensor in the 1X on the iPhone. Yeah, and that smartphone camera system captures 50 megapixel stills if you want it to. Insane amounts of dynamic range thanks to complex processing pipelines. Can zoom all the way out to 15mm and all the way into 100mm, and you can go even further if you're happy to sort of use a bit of digital cropping. You have instant autofocus where, trust me, old camcorders would hunt for focus for 10 minutes. And in the case of the iPhone Pro models in particular over the past few years, you get ProRes video. That, when used correctly, can end up looking absolutely out of this world. Better than codecs and even mirrorless cameras from a few years ago. We're not talking 15 or 20, albeit with a less capable sensor, of course. And for those of you who understand what that means, it's an astounding achievement. ProRes RAW capture in an iPhone. Many £3,000 camera bodies can't even do that. But because about 0.5% of any iPhone Pro user will ever even try to shoot ProRes, let alone actually use it on a regular basis, it can be understandably hard to justify and appreciate just how big of a feature and a big change that is from what we had 10-15 years ago. And your high-end smartphone does all of this, by the way, whilst lasting all day on a charge. Laptops and cameras from over a decade ago struggled to last a quarter of that amount of time individually, yet your phone can do it all, and some phones will even go to 2 days on a charge, which is absolutely mind-blowing. But maybe even more than that, your phone is more powerful of a camera, faster of a computer, and is a brighter and sharper TV screen, all whilst coming in under a centimetre thick. Something that you can just nonchalantly stick in your pocket. If you're willing to forego a couple more features, you actually get phones that are this thin, which is absolutely crazy. And I will reiterate, a camera, a games console, a laptop, all in a package about the size of your wallet. And people have the audacity to complain about their phones costing 4 figures. Do me a favour. I do realise that I'm at that age now where some of you watching this video might be 15, 16, 17 years old, and smartphones that we have now are all you've ever known. But to many of us, these are actually kind of crazy, insane pieces of technology that we didn't grow up with. You can of course just go out and get an actual phone, a usable phone for less than 50 quid if you want to. If you're going to go second hand, you can get one for 15 quid. Or you could get a less luxurious version of the smartphone that we have today for 300 quid, 400 pounds maybe, more in line with those prices that we did see in the 2010s. But of course, those don't get marketed the same way. They don't make for the sensationalist headlines. They're glossed over because, realistically, they are yesterday's tech for yesterday's money. If you want to pay less for a phone, go right ahead. There are plenty of options out there. The reason why phones have become so expensive is that they are fundamentally so far removed from what a phone was years ago. They have transcended that name with more functionality and quality than many of the traditionally decentralized components. Do manufacturers make a fortune selling them? Of course they do, mate. This is late stage capitalism. But take a step back and you'll realize that you aren't being as shortchanged as you might first think. And be sure to check out the link in the video description and the pinned comment to CyberGhost's great deals right now.